NFL fans. Welcome to NFL Picks with Dave. Today we're going to predict how things will play out in Week 2 of the 2022 NFL season. Let's get started. Our first game takes us to Arrowhead Stadium, where the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Chargers. Kansas City last week had a field day in Arizona, winning with a score of 44-21. The Chargers, meanwhile, defeated the Vegas Raiders with a score of 24-19. This pick is tough. Since the Chiefs scored more points, I'm picking them with a score of 38-35. Now let's move on to Sunday's games. Our first game takes us to Acrisure Stadium, where the Steelers will take on the New England Patriots. New England last week lost to the Miami Dolphins with a score of 20-7 as the Patriots' woes in Miami continue. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, edged the Bengals with a score of 23-20 in a very wild game full of missed field goals. This pick is surprisingly difficult. Since the Steelers performed a lot better, I'm picking them with a score of 17-14. Our next game is between the Panthers and the Giants. Carolina last week lost to the Browns with a score of 26-24 after Panthers quarterback Baker Mayfield said he was going to screw up the Browns. This shows you that you should not count your chickens before they hatch. The Giants, meanwhile, pulled off a shocking upset over the Titans with a score of 21-20. This pick is tough. Since the Panthers had more points, I'm picking them with a score of 20-13. My next picks are the Buccaneers over the Saints, 27-10, the Commanders over the Lions, 23-17, the Colts over the Jaguars, 13-10, the Ravens over the Dolphins, 37-20, the Rams over the Falcons, 28-7, the Seahawks over the 49ers, 21-20, and the Raiders over the Cardinals, 27-24. Now let's move on to the later games. Our next game takes us to Denver, Colorado, where the Broncos will take on the Houston Texans. The Texans tied with the Colts 20 apiece last week, while Denver shockingly lost to the Seahawks with a score of 17-16. This pick is pretty easy. I'm picking the Broncos with a score of 27-17. Our next game is between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Dallas Cowboys. Cincinnati last week lost to the Steelers in a heartbreaker, while the Cowboys are blown up by the Buccaneers with a score of 19-3. This pick is very easy. I'm picking the Bengals with a score of 35-13. This pick is the lock of the week. Now let's move on to the primetime games. Our first primetime game takes us to the frozen tundra, where the Packers will host the Bears. Chicago last week defeated the 49ers in a surprising upset. It was topped off by Justin Fields and his teammates surfing in the turf on a rainy day. Green Bay, meanwhile, didn't have a fun party. They had a pity party as they were mowed over by the Vikings with a score of 23-7. Since the Packers tend to play well at home and usually have a terrible first week, I'm picking them with a score of 28-10. Our next game is between the Titans and the Bills. Tennessee last week lost to the Giants, while the Bills spoiled the Rams Super Bowl banner reveal party by defeating them with a score of 31-10. This pick is surprisingly easy. I'm picking the Bills with a score of 43-24. Our next and final game takes us to Philadelphia, where the Eagles will take on the Vikings. Minnesota last week crushed the Packers, while the Eagles defeated the Lions with a score of 38-35. This pick is tough. Since the Vikings had a more impressive win, I'm picking them with a score of 31-28. And that wraps up today's episode. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to push that like button and subscribe. It will mean a lot to me if this channel could reach 20 subscribers this season. Also, be sure to follow this channel's Facebook page for the latest news and updates. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.